Liftoff of mission 41D, first flight of the orbiter Discovery.
Checkity 1, 2, level check. Looks like we are good, and we are live. Hey, welcome to the Health or High Water podcast. Your host, Brett, here, also with my other host, Trip Parks and Bethany Sturgis. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I was like, I've never actually said your last name.
How else would you pronounce, like, Sturgis?
Sturgis.
There's an ass in there.
I've
Hope you
had
guys are
Sturgis.
having a wonderful day today. It is, we're in Denver, Colorado. I know we have listeners all around the world. It is very cold and frigid here. I think it was like 7 degrees when we woke up or something like that. And it is Tuesday. Other than that, it's a beautiful day.
It sucks. Are you kidding me? It's terrible out. I had to plow snow yesterday. My knees hurt. My back hurts. I'm cold. Like, my lips are chapped. My eyes are chapped.
My eyes are chapped, but the sun is coming out today. Be positive.
Yeah, it segues into our episode on no excuses.
Right.
Just
Hey-
kidding. That's not
Hey,
an
guys,
episode.
we want to thank our sponsors real quick. We want to thank O2 Boost. We want to thank Gene Planet, Adrian Bybee Coaching, Herculean Adventure, Health Profiling, You vs. You, Taste Life Nutrition, Pelvic Harmony. Is that everybody?
I'm going to give a little bit more. I think that was good. I'm going to give a little bit more context, too, if there are new listeners out there or you're joining us for the first time or you've been listening to a lot of our episodes. I'm a personal trainer. I've been a personal trainer a long time. Trip, also a DNA certified based personal trainer. You're probably asking yourselves, what the hell is that? And so that's where we mentioned Gene Planet. So we actually develop programs based off your genes, your genetic markers. There are over 100 of them that come back. We also take blood work. So he's certified nutritionist and DNA-based program designer, among some other things. So that's where he's speaking from. He's got a lot of knowledge in that area. And then Bethany comes from a pelvic floor, pelvic specialty background, soft tissue, massage therapy, injury rehabilitation, and you've been doing it for 7 years in a clinical setting. So we are a group of fitness professionals from different backgrounds, and we want to kind of tackle some of these fitness ideas and conversations and just kind of bring them to light on 2023, how we can live our best lives possible through journaling, through meditation, through fitness regimens, through healthier nutrition, and all these things. So that's our goal. Thank you for joining us along the ride. We're super excited to have you. Any additional thoughts before we jump into the topic today, guys?
Nope.
I don't have anything.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so today's topic, strength training. We've done a lot of different stuff. Today's topic is going to be totally on lifting weights. I want to dive into it. Trip, if you listen way back to episode 1, or was it 1? Sorry, episode 2, you heard a little bit of Trip's story. Trip, give us a rundown on a brief rundown of your lifting weights experience. When did you start?
Started when I was 12 years old. My brother's 18 years older than me. We had not a lot in common with that age gap, so he dragged my butt to the gym. I started in a very heavy-eccentric bodybuilding gym. I started falling in love with the process, started writing programs at 15. Long story short, now certified personal trainer, certified nutritionist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, certified genetic-based program designer, and certified elite trainer.
You were thrown into when you were, 11, 12?
12,
thrown
yeah.
into the bodybuilding scene because of your brother?
100%. Like going through like those, instead of like actually looking up all your stuff online, like we actually looked at everything through magazines, like Bustle and Fitness. Like that was the way to go back in the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Magazines were a great source that was where all the good information was. Bodybuilding.
Wow.
And you did all the workouts. You did leg days, push-pull, the big 5x5s.
Yeah, learning splits, learning proper nutrition, diet. One of the big things that I'm really grateful for was the boot camp of what supplementation is. Understanding different kinds of proteins, how creatine works, the right vitamins and minerals, and some other heavier stuff too. But I learned a lot about
Steroids.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I'm not going to pussyfoot around that. Yeah, I dabbled in steroids a little bit when I was 18 to about 26. But I learned a lot about proper use for everything, like their moderation and what to do and what not to do in those kind of situations.
Yeah, and it was more I want to say, yeah, if you weren't around for the 2000s bodybuilding scene, it was an amazing scene of dungeon gyms and
Yes.
and weights everywhere and
Tetanus and
Tetanus.
yeah, and just like rusty. Yeah, it was great. Bethany, give us a brief rundown of your weightlifting experience. Some of it, like just where'd you started, stuff like that.
Yeah, I started going regularly when I was in college. There was a gym on campus, and of course, everything that's free in college, you take advantage of. So that's where I kind of got into it and started learning about it, and that was during my program for physical therapy, so that was helpful in just having me practice all the anatomy, and as I was in the gym, educating myself and what everything feels like, and then just progressed into a few years later, got into boxing, and that was very fun. That had some lifting incorporated into the boxing training. And then it's been just regular gym workouts, lifting, different splits as time went on, and as my own routine changed. But yeah.
Did you, when you were in college and you were doing that, did you go through a period where you lifted weights by yourself, or were you always with people?
Yeah, by myself, and I preferred it that way.
Gotcha.
I could just think better and get it done faster instead of being distracted and talking and maybe cutting it short because there was someone else there. Or yeah.
Oh yeah, and you liked it? Was it more of a hey, I have to do this, or did you get to a point to where you liked it? Because Tripp and I obviously we love lifting weights. It's one of it. Sometimes it's harder for women. Or it's easy to be harder for women.
Yeah, I definitely got to a point that I enjoyed it.
Nice.
Looked forward to it. I enjoyed when you get into learning more about what to eat to fuel yourself to lift those weights. That was also fun for me, and playing around with that kind of thing. And yeah.
Nice. I love it. Well, today I'm excited.
What about you, man?
I started, I was 16 years old. Oh my God. I was obsessed with lifting. I was only obsessed with getting bigger arms when I first started.
There's always something like that.
Always curling every day. Curls. Every day was curl day. But I started when I was 16 probably in wrestling and loved it immediately. Lifted every day since then, every single day. Got into, went to GNC, got protein and creatine when creatine first came out. And then lifted through college in a gym by myself and then loved it. Got certified in 2008 or 9. And I've just loved it ever since. I love, and I've done, and this is cool about the episode because I want to get into like some of the specificity of training regimens, which is, this will kind of cross over from the average person into like the personal trainer realm, which will be fun, which is like going through different programs. So, people go into the gym and they work out. How do we get workouts put together, right?
I love
this.
this.
Like people put push-pull. Okay, they've heard that. Leg day, full body, CrossFit style, aerobic style, endurance style.
Sympathetic muscle groups.
So, so there's a lot out there. So let's get right into it. I'm going to start with you, Bethany. What, when you would go and work out, give us a quick rundown of like, were you following a program online? Did you experiment initially? How did that work out when you first started going in? I'm sure you were like all of our listeners or a lot of our listeners, like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. At first I was just like, I know one movement to do for this group, so I'll do that. And it was a lot of, experimenting for a few years. And I worked with a trainer for a couple months in, I want to say 2020. And that was all virtual, but she did some programming for me, and I did get good results with that. And then after that, using what I learned from my history and from her to kind of build my own going forward, but still just like general upper body versus lower body versus core versus cardio.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, just putting your own workouts together.
Yeah.
I should do this. Okay, cool. Tripp, what about you? As far as like now you have experience training people and you've done this a lot. Give our listeners a little bit, and I'll dive into give a little background of keep it fairly brief, but a background of how you put together programs, how you decide someone's coming up with a program. Do I go push pull? Do I do a leg day? How do you do that?
So that going a little back, pulling all of our workouts and stuff from magazines and stuff back in the day, like you started learning a little bit about, like, you kind of look at it, you're like, oh, so they split chest and back here together, push pull. This day they did sympathetic muscle groups. They did chest and tricep. They did back and bicep, right? They did sympathetic muscle groups. So I started learning that at a pretty young age about how to split things right, making sure that, you know, leg days in between your chest and back days and shoulder days, making sure that you're giving your shoulder joint a little alleviation. So I always try to, when I'm building programs, I'm trying to make sure that there is the most effective amount of time for the muscle to recover, as well as making sure the joints are okay. So like when I'm building things, I do push-pull or sympathetic muscle groups for the most part. But what I mean is push-pull, like you said, is it's going to be back and chest, arms, right? And sometimes you even put legs with shoulders for that and do like 2 times a week. I know some people that do that. But typically I flip-flop between those two when I'm programming for myself. I'll do 4 weeks of push-pull, 4 weeks of sympathetic muscle groups, and just keep on flipping-flopping.
Yeah. So why is that? Why don't you just pick one? And I'm not I'm not backing you in a corner. I just want to expand on that idea.
I'm in a corner.
Why do you change programs like that? It's for the listener trying to understand why you're doing a different program.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is our bodies are amazing at adapting. They are incredible adapting, and they adapt very, very fast. So when our bodies adapt to workouts, it could take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. Really, that's kind of what we call a plateau phase. Things that you're not growing as fast as you were the first 4 weeks. So I'm always making sure that I'm trying to do what we call muscle confusion for all your listeners. We want to make sure that we're confusing our muscles. And by that means we want to keep on changing certain aspects of the workout every so often to make sure that we're getting the results that we want. We're getting the most efficient results, really. So I constantly make those changes back and forth and do like little different things here or there to make sure that I'm not plateauing and I'm growing.
Yeah, this is interesting. I wanted to dive into like some of the different training programs. There's a lot of different ones. There's so much to get into. I'm trying to see how deep we want to go today. So name me some of the different workouts you've done, like program-wise.
Well, before I do that, I want to say like there's 5 ways we can really force a muscle to grow when we're programming. There's time under tension, there's progressive reps, progressive sets, progressive weights, as well as form. Those are our 4 ways we can really force a muscle to grow. So if you have at least 2 or 3 of those aspects when you're building your own program, you're gonna start seeing some results. So you guys look up those 5 things. But I've done everything from like pyramid style training to strength style training, Olympic training, athletic based training. I've kind of done the whole. I'm sure most of us here have done at least a little bit of the whole gambit of a little bit of everything. And you've done some athletic training with baseball. You know that there's a huge difference in just going to the gym to put on some lean mass versus going to the gym for an objective like training for football or training for baseball. Yeah. So there's totally different aspects. And like the best part about as you try these different things is pulling things that you like from each one of these aspects and making your own unique program for all those listening out there. So like there's some things like I still do a few athletic stuff from football training that I incorporate into my day-to-day stuff to make sure that I stay flexible, make sure I can stay active. If I want to go play some flag football right now, I could. Yeah. So things like plyometric training, those are staples in my workouts and whatnot. So as I'm building programs, you guys out there listening, make sure that you're getting one of those 5 things about forcing a muscle to grow, and then making sure that you're not doing the same thing over and over again.
So let me get the female perspective here from lifting weights. What are your personal thoughts on lifting weights? A lot of women I speak with, everybody wants to lift and work out, but I don't want to get bulky is a common thing I hear. Like, how do I not get bulky? Is that something that you kind of personally think about? And then is that something also you think other women talk about or think about?
Yeah, I used to think about it, and I think a lot of women do, and it's like honestly kind of frustrating when I hear it because it just tells me that they don't realize typically how much work that really takes and how intentional you would have to be. You're not just going to wake up one day and be like, oh, I look like a bulky man. Like, it's just not going to happen overnight. It's so intentional. Your diet has to be there. Your program has to be there. So I've learned to, like, let that kind of quote-unquote fear go away and know that I'll I'll see it way before it would happen, and I can adjust for that in the meantime. But I just love the feeling. I just love feeling strong and feeling capable. Yeah. And feeling solid.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, to tack onto that, yeah, but getting bulky. First of all, Trip will talk about this. Yes, genetics play an enormous role in your body structure and where you hold your body fat for sure. I think a big thing is always getting women to appreciate, not women but men too, appreciate who they are, like, and how their bodies are unique.
Yeah.
And then training towards that uniqueness.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, getting bulky is about overloading calories, surplus in protein, surplus in carbohydrates,
Yeah.
and then progressive overload. So
Yeah.
it's not about really the sets of the reps. It's about really how much food you're putting in. So yeah, women out there, don't worry about getting bulky. You can lift as heavy and as hard as you want.
Yeah.
Granted, you're not doing like 3 to 5 reps. You
No.
keep it around
Yeah.
8 to 12.
Yeah.
Well, and to add on to that too, I do know a lot of females that like maybe they are a little heavier set and they start putting on lean mass and they start feeling a little bit bigger. And I know that is a huge issue as they start feeling like, well, I'm feeling bulky. I'm not going to stop doing that. When you get to that point when you're lifting and you start feeling that bulk, is it when your fat's about to start changing and your
Yeah.
body shape's about to start changing. So when you start feeling that, like, and especially the ladies out there listening, when you start feeling that, like, oh, I'm feeling a little bulky, like things are feeling a little tighter, because that's your point. That's like almost a zenith when your body's starting to transform, right? It's like, hey, I'm about to get to the point where I'm building lean mass, and I'm starting to, the lean mass is going to eat that fat off, and
Right.
that's the most sustainable way for us to, lose that body composition or the right amount of weight in body fat. Is understanding that we do have that, you have to go through that almost like that bell curve of like, hey, it's gonna kind of gain a little bit, but once it starts tapering off, I'll start building that lean mass.
Yeah. That's why it's so good to have someone to work with you to like talk you through that threshold and get you past that point where you might have turned around before.
Yeah, you got to train hard. You got to train hard, but also in order, muscle doesn't grow under stress, under like overly stressful conditions. So you have to get good sleep. Every bodybuilder in the world will tell you got to be sleeping well. Let's segue. Let's go into two things. Number one, I want to speak directly to the listeners. Number one, who are starting a program, and then the ones who have been doing it and are trying to find home, trying to figure out what, I've been doing CrossFit or I've been doing, my own thing and are trying to figure out what's a program I can do for the rest of my life. So let's get into your thoughts, Trip, on starting a program. Somebody's maybe tried it before, kind of. What should they do? Should they get a program off the internet? Should they go there and just try stuff? And then same question to you, Bethany.
So first things first, you obviously got to look at your budget, right? What can you afford, what not? And a lot of these decisions are going to be based off your financial stability. And I hate saying that actual health is based off of your financial goals. And hopefully one day, once we build this business up, we can start changing those narratives. But first things first is you got to structure out a budget for this, right? And the reason I want you guys to structure out a budget is because if you guys don't take care of your health now, then down the road that budget's going to be extraordinarily big on like medical bills and health bills and everything like that. The same thing happened to my mom. She had a stroke, dementia, boom, medical bills up the yin yang. Right, so take care of yourself now. So when you're making your little financial statement here, understand like, all right, I have this much amount of money for personal training. I have this much money for supplements. I have this amount of time too. So when you're building this out and you're understanding, trying to understand for yourself how to build this your wellness routine. I just lost track what I was going to say.
Did you eat yet?
No, not yet. I haven't eaten yet.
Need your Jimmy
just
John's.
blank.
Bethany, what about you?
Yeah, that's good. That's a really good point for a lot of people. I would say be okay with setting one goal, whether that is your schedule, whether that is you want to go and do something in the gym twice a week or 3 times a week. There's a book that I've read a good bit of called The One Thing. Let me find the author in a second. By Gary Keller. And he basically says, when you focus all your energy on one thing, the secondary things will just come naturally. So put the majority of your effort into this one goal, and you'll go into learning more about your nutrition, and you'll want to, and you'll find the resources that you need. Disclaimer, don't go off the internet, don't go off Instagram. Get someone who's more educated than you to help you out.
I like it.
Or use websites that that are like really sanctioned too. Like
Yeah.
now I remember a little bit of it. I would be very wary on trusting things online that are from Instagram, from Facebook, from LinkedIn. A lot of those people are just out to get your money, and they really don't care about your results.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to change here too, is understanding like there is not a one-size-fits-all wellness approach for anybody. Everyone has their own issues, their genetics, epigenetics, their own financial issues, their own time issues. Like there's all these different factors that go into it. So like you said, write things down, make some goals. That's perfect. Write some goals and then trust it. Everyone out there can find someone on their social media that is in the fitness industry of some aspect, right? Or reach out to us, any of us about any fitness questions you might have. But trust your sources. Sources are so big, man.
I like that. So the question was, when you get started working out, what's the best way to get started? So yeah, you can do it completely for free. Number one, walking is the most underrated, underutilized part of fitness in general. Just getting your steps up. Get yourself a cheap Garmin watch. It's $50. Tracks your steps. And speaking of that, it's low battery now. General guidelines say 10,000. I don't know how realistic that is if you're at your desk. But what you can do is set a goal for 10 to 15,000 or whatever your limit is on the weekend. So on the weekend, you're out and moving. If you're starting out, you really only need you technically only need, in my experience, 2 strength training days a week. Yes, you can have more for sure. But, I mean, if you can make it 2 times, if you have a budget and you can hire a personal trainer, great. If you can't, you can learn slowly, pick one motion, get good at it, and build over time. But just get to the gym 2 times a week to get started. It's going to take your joints, tendons, and ligaments, 90 days to warm up. And then the habit, too. There's some weird number. They say habit takes 28 days. I don't know who came up with that.
Well, that's when you start to build
habit. Literally takes a solid 6 months, 9 months, a year almost, in my experience. So you just need to get into the habit of going to the gym. You need to have this become a positive reinforcement. So you need to achieve the dopamine release, which it comes from the accomplishment, knowing that you had a successful workout. Some workouts are great to push yourself very hard, like Bethany did today.
Yep.
And some workouts you don't have to push yourself to the limit. So finding that balance. So that's starting out, okay? Let's push this to the next question. Where should you finish? So now someone's been working out for a long period of time. They've gotten in great shape. They've looked fantastic, and then they gained 30 pounds. And now they've done it for 15 years. They're getting older. They have some injuries. What do they do now? How do they figure out a program that works for them? What is the best program they could do? To Bethany first.
Yeah, I think for that specific example, that person first would need to look at what changes when they stop. Like what caused them to stop and change their routine and gain some weight back, and then what ends up being the catalyst that makes them go back again and cycle through.
Just about vacation maybe, or vacation or had a minor injury.
Yeah.
Had an injury, something, just life stuff.
Yeah. I would say if and when you're injured, just stay active with your walking, and make sure that you're rehabbing that injury well and safely, and with an expert who knows how to help you. What was the rest of your question?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, just somebody who's trying to figure out, who's like, hey, how do I figure out a workout that will last me the rest of my life? I've done CrossFit, I've done rowing, I've done this, I go skiing. What do I do to, I get that a lot from people. Like, I've done it all. Now what?
Yeah, it's so hard for me because I always say it depends on the person, and I want to know your whole history, and I want to know
that's an answer.
It always depends for me. If you are skiing a lot, then I would recommend something else than if you're playing basketball all the time. Person to person.
Gotcha. I like it.
For me, there's a lot of different factors, and understanding goals is really big. I really like to have a long-term goal. Like, hey, where do you want to see yourself in 20 years? Right? Do you want to see yourself in a wheelchair, on the couch, or do you want to see yourselves active, out running? Secondly, it's some short-term goals, right? Like what can we do? Maybe someone wants to do a climbing competition, or maybe go in a triathlon. Maybe they want to play flag football like myself. I want to get myself back into really good shape to start playing that again. Understanding those 2 different types of goals is really important, because a lot of us don't think long-term. Longevity has been on the back burner for decades. And we're seeing a lot more of that. People coming in, it's like, hey, I'm really curious about, what it's going to take to keep me healthy as long as I can in my older ages. So that's a question you have to ask yourself too when you're building this. Like, understand, what are my long-term goals here? What do I want to do with my life? How do I want to live? Secondly, you have to understand what your genetic factors are, in my opinion. Right? Are you able to burn fat through cardio? Are you able to get strength training in with a certain amount of volume or whatnot? Understanding these different factors to make sure that you can hit these goals is huge. Understanding the blood work. Do you have the right nutrition going in? Are you getting enough sleep? What's your recovery look like? So all these different factors go into it, and that's why we completely recommend to go seeing a professional about all this kind of stuff. You can do it on your own, of course, don't get me wrong, but the support and the information you get from these quantitative tests and experience is it's invaluable.
I love it. Next.
What do you tell your people when they ask you that?
Oh, yeah, I should probably answer
Yeah.
my own question. Thank you, Bethany. So the question was, where should you finish, which comes down to...
On the face.
I have...
Oh, gosh.
I have written down in parentheses, I'm just going to ignore that, longevity. So basically, let me just gain my bearings here on... Colonel Mustard over here. Tripp's wearing a yellow,
Colonel
his
Mustard.
famous yellow shirt right now. I always call him Colonel Mustard.
You guessed the clue?
The question was, where should they gravitate towards to? And Tripp told me, I don't know, maybe a month ago, he's like, you should brand yourself as a longevity expert. In full disclosure, I'm, as far as credentials are concerned, I'm just a personal trainer, right? But I've been doing it so long that I kind of have gravitated to different types of training. And so he says, why don't you brand yourself as the longevity guy? And honestly, it kind of fits. So you need to find a sustainable program. That's number one above all. If you can't sustain a program, you're going to fail. So the program, above all, has to be something that the movements are sustainable. Now, you can do deload stuff where you're building into weights for 16 weeks or 18 weeks, and then deload could let your joints rest. That's great because your joints do get stronger. We've proven through science we can strengthen our tendons, ligaments, and joints. That's true. But there is a fatigue resistance factor, meaning there does come a point where they need a deload week. So number one, your program has to be sustainable. Number two, you have to enjoy it. Do you enjoy it? Because if you enjoy it, you're going to release the dopamine and serotonin. Those are the two things. And then three is it's strength based. So we have to be doing strength training or hypertrophy training or even volume training for the quality of the muscles. Having strong muscles is so much better than cardiovascular or endurance programs. Sorry, guys. I know you hate me out there, the endurance people. But strength training is far superior to endurance training for your overall health. I'm not shitting on endurance training. I love them, a lot of my friends. But if you're going to choose one, it's strength training.
Well, let's break down why real quick too.
Sure.
Right. Let's break down the why. So there's gonna be a lot of people out there who's like, well, I love running. It's one of the best things. You gotta work out your heart. Yes, you do. And I agree with that 100%. That your cardiovascular insides are just as important as your muscle tone and volume, and whatnot. But the thing is. And I always go back to this caveman idea of like who we are because that's who I developed into humans, right? Our ancestors developed slowly with whatnot. We were not running for 3 hours straight when we were cave people. There would be no point. Like, do you think some cave person is going to run out and go for a 3 hour run and come back, right? Like, for us, like that was never plausible. Like. What we did do is we pick up rocks, we pick up carcasses, we pick up other loved ones or whatnot, we pick up babies, we do these small ideas of what we call strength training and plyometric training right now, right? And that's the kind of stuff that I know works. Is even if you get a good strength training program, you work on the sets, you work on the repetitions, making sure everything's nice and organized with it. You can get a cardio-like workout from those weights, right? I mean, like even like when I was, I had a physical when I was taking care of my mom, and I had not done one step of cardio in that 6 months I was taking care of my mom, at all. Just strength training, just a little, there's some kind of plyometrics in there, and my heart test came back great. I didn't need to go out and run 2 hours a day to go get healthy. I just think we got to look back on what worked for us a long time ago. It's going to work for us now because that's who we are.
I love it. Let's move on to the next question. Is mind-muscle connection in the spirit of strength training? If we're not talking about mind-muscle connection, I feel like we're doing a disservice to it. So again, going around the table, Bethany, mind-muscle connection. No right or wrong answer. Do you feel it? Do you use it? What do you know about it? Give us, our listeners, a little bit of background.
Yeah. I worked out for several years before really being educated about it. But now it's definitely changed every workout that I do. And the big educating time frame was when I was working with that one trainer in 2020 that I mentioned earlier. She really emphasized it and focused on it and made sure that I was feeling what I was supposed to be feeling and connecting what I was supposed to be connecting. And I was so much more sore after workouts. I had more growth, more results, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think it's really important to ask about if the person you're working with hasn't addressed it yet, or just make sure that you know you're on the right page. Yeah, I like it.
Chip?
Yep.
All the above?
I know we're getting kind of close to being on time here too, so yeah, getting close to being time with the podcast here. Last thoughts, I guess. I know we're over 30 minutes. Last thoughts? Nothing? Last thoughts? Bethany?
Go to the gym, lift your weights.
Nice. All right. Well, hey, guys, thank you guys so much for watching Health or High Water or listening to Health or High Water. Well, hopefully, we're going to have some video equipment coming in here pretty soon to do some new things. Thank you, Brett, for hosting today. Thank you, Bethany, for being on here. We got some amazing guests coming up. We have Leslie coming up. It's going to be our first repeat guest coming on here on Thursday. Really excited to have her. And then we have a few doctors next week coming on board. So make sure you guys are staying tuned. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, following us. Every little bit helps. And we'll see you later this week.
Nice.